It's always fun to theorycraft what new mechanics a Pokemon game should or could have to balance out the game or make the game more interesting. Fans like to do this both before a new game comes out since it's fun to predict, and while they're already out since we know what the metagame is like and how it should or could be different. Now I've done a few videos dedicated to this and have some theory crafting elements in a lot of my other videos, but for this video, I want to discuss mechanics that we don't need. Mechanics that would be too powerful if implemented. Now, the mechanics I'll be talking about will all be related to existing mechanics, so I won't just be saying things like, we don't need a move with 10 trillion base power, because of course we don't need that, and that wouldn't make for a very interesting video. Think of this as kind of a rebuttal to a lot of commonly thrown around Pokemon theory crafting ideas. The first mechanic we don't need is a status move that inflicts freeze. Freeze is by far the strongest status condition in the game. Once inflicted, it prevents the frozen Pokemon from being able to attack, with it only having a 20% chance of thawing out on any given turn. This has no turn limit, by the way, so if you never get that 1 in 5 chance of thawing out, your Pokemon could do nothing for the entirety of a battle. It's only remotely balanced out by the fact that it has no turn minimum, so you could thaw out on turn 1, and it is very difficult to inflict, as it is the only status condition that doesn't have a status move that inflicts the condition. Sleep has Spore, Paralysis has Thunder Wave, Burn has Will-O-Wisp, Poison has Toxic, and Confusion has Confuse Ray. It is currently exclusive to secondary effects of moves, with the chance of all usable competitive moves that can freeze being at 10%, except for one that is 6.7%. Look at how powerful Spore is, a move that puts Pokemon to sleep with 100% accuracy. Spore is balanced out by having very limited distribution, being a powder move that certain Pokemon are immune to, and the fact that Sleep has a turn limit. Look at how nerfed Thunder Wave and Paralysis were. The accuracy of the move was reduced, the speed drop of Paralysis was reduced, and electric types were made immune. Confusion can be nullified when switching out, and it was also nerfed with its self-hit chance being reduced and the accuracy of Swagger being reduced. Burn doesn't restrict your ability to move, but its residual damage was reduced from 1/8 HP to 1/16 HP in Gen 7. The point is, Freeze in its current state is way too strong for a status move to consistently be able to inflict it. Even a freezing status move with 50% accuracy would be too strong. The only way this could ever be balanced is if Freeze was either nerfed or replaced with Frostbite, the Legends Arceus effect. I would much prefer the latter, but if I were to nerf Freeze, I would add a 4-turn turn limit and bump up the thaw chance to 1 in 3 instead of 1 in 5. If Freeze had these properties, I could see a freezing status move being somewhat balanced, but as of now, we do not need this. Next, we don't need a physical Assault Vest. The Assault Vest is a held item introduced in Gen 6 that increases the holder's special defense by 50%, but prevents it from using status moves. To this day, this item does not have a physical defense counterpart, and I think it's best that it stays that way. Physical attackers already get screwed over way more than special attackers, so they don't need another mechanic that mitigates their damage output. Physical attackers can get burned, which halves attack. They can get intimidated, which lowers attack. They can get hit with foul play, which uses the target's attack stat in the damage calculation. They are more susceptible to the effects of moves, items, and abilities that activate upon contact, like Rocky Helmet, Rough Skin, Flame Body, Static, and Spiky Shield, since most contact moves are physical. Confusion's self-damage is calculated from the user's physical attack stat. Some physical moves have recoil while most special moves don't. There are fewer physical spread moves than special, and most physical moves in general are weaker than their same type special counterpart, like Fire, Ice, and Thunder Punch being weaker than Flamethrower, Ice Beam, and Thunderbolt. Special attackers have to deal with the Assault Vests, and what else? An occasional Snarl? They can live with having an item that increases special defense with all the crap that physical attackers have to deal with. The only things I can think of that physical attackers have in their favor is that physical attack boosting moves are more widespread, like Swords Dance and Dragon Dance as opposed to Nasty Plot and Quiver Dance, and Struggle uses physical attack instead of special attack, but really how much more damage are you dealing with a 40 base power non-stab neutral damage move as a physical attacker than as a special attacker? Next, we don't need a special Huge Power. Huge Power is an ability that doubles the user's effective attack stat. We don't need this for pretty much the exact same reason that we don't need a physical Assault Vest, which is that physical attackers need something in their favor over special attackers. In my Pokemon that used their worst attacking stat video, almost every Pokemon I mentioned had higher physical attack but preferred to use special attack because of one or more of the reasons I mentioned in the last entry. Give physical attackers something cool that makes them want to be used over special attackers. Next, we don't need offensive terrain seeds. The terrain seeds are held items that increase defensive stats by 1 stage when the holder is exposed to a terrain. Physical defense for grassy and electric, special defense for psychic and misty, where the seed is consumed after use. This is balanced because having a defensive stat raised upon switch-in will never allow a Pokemon to completely run away with games on its own. The same cannot be said for offensive stats, making offensive terrain seeds way too powerful. For the most part, Game Freak is very careful with items and abilities that can raise offense. The choice items lock the user into one move. The Life Orb has recoil and a lower power boost than the choice items. The stat boosting berries only activate at 25% HP or less. Huge power is on Pokemon with low attack stats. Intrepid Sword was nerfed to only work once, and most abilities that grant 50% boosts have very specific conditions. On the other hand, offensive terrain seeds could allow pretty much any Pokemon to get a 50% offensive boost on switch-in with no restrictions of what moves they can use or drawbacks like recoil damage. This is in addition to the 30% boost that grassy, electric, and psychic terrain provide to grass, electric, and psychic moves, by the way. Assuming that grassy and electric would be physical attack and psychic and misty would be special attack, Rillaboom could get +1 attack on switch-in with access to stab, priority, grassy glide. Indeedee Male could get +1 special attack on switch-in with access to stab, expanding force. Sneasler could get +1 attack and doubled speed from Unburden on switch-in, making these items way too powerful. Next, we don't need a speed equivalent to Body Press. This was actually something that I suggested in my How to Buff Every Type in Pokemon video to help buff the Flying type, but on second thought, I take back what I said because this move would be way too powerful. Body Press using defense is balanced for a few reasons. The first being that not many fighting types get this move, so most users won't be getting a stab boost. Second being that ghost types are immune to fighting, so there's a chance that you won't deal any damage at all. Third being that even though using a setup move like Iron Defense essentially gives you +2 defense and +2 attack in one move if Body Press is your main form of dealing damage, a +2 attack and defense boost will not completely allow a Pokemon to run away with a game and sweep a team entirely. It's still susceptible to special moves, and raising its defense has no effect on its speed. A flying type Body Press that uses speed though would mean that agility essentially gives you +2 speed and +2 attack in one turn. You could invest fully into speed and not even have to worry about attack. There is also no type or ability that grants a flying immunity, so a Pokemon with this move would absolutely be able to sweep a team with just one turn of setup. The reason that I went this route in the type buffing video instead of doing something like a flying equivalent of Electro Ball is that I wanted one move that could buff both physical and special attacking flying types at the same time. That way, one move would patch up the weakness of the flying type having bad physical and special moves, but I really couldn't see this move working out and not being insanely overpowered. Instead, I would increase the base power of Air Slash to 80, its accuracy to 100, and the base power of Aerial Ace to 70, and give it a high crit chance. Overall, there's actually a lot of ways that I would adjust what I suggested in that video, so let me know if you'd like me to revisit it. The next mechanic we don't need is one that I was actually really on the fence about because I could definitely see an argument that we do need it, which is an offensive Eviolite. The Eviolite is an item that increases defense and special defense by 50% if the holder can still evolve, meaning that it only works on not fully evolved Pokemon. A hypothetical offensive Eviolite would increase attack and special attack by 50% if the holder can still evolve, which would essentially make it a no drawback choice band in choice specs, and here's how that could be too powerful. Scyther with its 110 attack, 105 speed, access to agility and sword stance for setting up, and technician to boost stab moves like Aerial Ace, Dual Wing Beat, Bug Bite, and Pounce would be very strong. Duraludon has a 120 special attack stat with Stab Draco Meteor. Bisharp has a 125 attack stat with Sword Stance and Stab Sucker Punch. and Porygon 2 has a 105 special attack stat with download, all of which could be very strong. The thing is, I don't know that they would be so strong that it would be worth using over their evolutions. Scizor has a way better typing and a stab technician boosted priority move. Archaludon has stamina and electro shot. Kingambit has Supreme Overlord for boosts. And Porygon Z has 30 more special attack, and Porygon 2 would probably just rather use the regular Eviolite. The 50% no drawback defense and special defense boost of the regular Eviolite is balanced for a few reasons. Most unevolved Pokemon have much lower HP than their evolved counterparts, so you're making the trade of having less HP for more defense and not having any choice of a held item, which is only sometimes more advantageous than just using the evolved form. Most unevolved Pokemon also have worse offense, both because their attack or special attack is lower, and because they lack certain moves. If this item were to be implemented, I think a 30% boost could be balanced, but let me know what you think. Next, we don't need an ability that sets Trick Room. Trick Room is a Psychic type move that reverses the speed order that determines who goes first for 5 turns. This move is balanced because Trick Room has -7 priority itself, so it will always go last, meaning you have to be able to survive a potential attack, get around a fake out, get around a taunt, imprison, or any other factor that could limit your potential to get that move off. The 5-turn period also includes the turn that it is set, so the speed reversing effect is really only the following 4 turns. Now if this was able to be set with an ability, that would be broken. Look at how terrible terrains were in Gen 6 before the Tapus were introduced, because manual terrain setting was just not worth it. As soon as terrain setting abilities were introduced, terrains actually became viable. Now look at Trick Room, an effect that is already viable when set manually, that is now able to be set automatically with an ability? That would be insane. In doubles, Torkoal could immediately get off max HP Sun boosted Terrafire Choice Specs Eruptions. Kali Ice could immediately get off Choice Band Terra Ice Glacial Lances. The point is, needing to set Trick Room manually is the main thing balancing it out, and if that difficulty is taken away, that would be game breaking. The only way that this could be balanced is either if the turn duration was reduced, or if it didn't take effect right away, like if the ability would activate after a turn. Even then, you could protect stall for the ability to activate. Maybe if the speed reversing effect only lasted 1 turn, once per switch-in, or something like that. Otherwise, this would be way too powerful. Next, we don't need items that increase the turn duration of Trick Room and Tailwind. Trick Room and Tailwind are overall probably the best forms of speed control in doubles, and I've already discussed why Trick Room in its current state is balanced in the last entry. For Tailwind, it's balanced because it lasts 4 turns including the turn that it's set, so only when used on a Prankstermon will you actually be able to take advantage of the full 4 turns. The reason that the Light Clay is balanced, an item that increases the turn duration of Reflect, Light Screen, and Aurora Veil from 5 turns to 8 turns, is that the effects are defensive. You'll notice a trend in this video that mechanics that increase defense by a certain amount will almost always be more balanced than those that increase offense by that same amount. Boosting defense is just inherently a reactive strategy. You're doing it to mitigate the damage you'll take from an opponent's attack. Controlling speed, on the other hand, dictates the pace of a battle, and making this even stronger is game-breaking. Screens can also be broken by various moves, bypassed by various moves and abilities, and are made to be weaker in doubles, while Trick Room and Tailwind don't really have that same kind of counterplay. You're either forced to wait out the turns, reverse Trick Room, or match your opponent's Tailwind with your own Tailwind. With 4v4 doubles games generally lasting under 10 turns total, Trick Room and Tailwind lasting 7 turns would be way too powerful. We do not need this. Lastly, we don't need a move that removes items. Held items are essential to the game plan of many Pokemon in the competitive scene, so being able to remove them would be super toxic. You could remove the main thing boosting their damage output, or their survivability, or some other kind of strategy. It would be even worse if this hypothetical move got some sort of power boost when removing that item, and it was of a certain type that no other type or ability was immune to, and had super high distribution. Wait. And those are mechanics that we don't need in Pokemon. Let me know if you disagree with any of my reasonings, or feel that I missed any. Anyway, if you want to support me and my channel, the best way to do so is just by leaving a nice comment. I do read all comments and will try my best to respond to as many as I can. You can also click the join button and become a member, and I made the cost as low as possible at 99 cents USD. Members get a badge next to their name and 4-day early video release access. Keep in mind that these videos will be releasing on my normal schedule of 10 AM EST for non-members, so please don't feel obligated at all to join unless you really want to support me and you are financially capable of doing so. Huge thanks to all my members. I really appreciate your continued support for the channel. Likes are also one of the ways that YouTube determines if a video should be passed around to more people, so if you feel that this video deserves to be, I would appreciate it. Thanks for watching.